What would be your best pizza wine, a wine that you're selling to them that you think is a great pizza wine?
So actually, we've managed to make sure their entry wine, their house wine, which is obviously the one that kind of sells the most, is a Nero di Troia. A light and easy drinking Nero di Troia, so just stainless steel. It has a great acidity and it works really, really well with any type of pizza. Especially kind of key pizza is the one with Nduja, which has a little bit of spiciness there. So I think you need something, a little, a red wine that counteract a little bit.
Okay, fabulous.
Fascinating people with stories to share, fabulous wines and the best local foods to accompany them, and beautiful places to discover and visit. All of this and more on Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on the Italian Wine Podcast. Join me for a new episode every Tuesday.
Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Today I'm traveling up the M5 motorway from my home in Devon over the Severn Bridge to Wales to meet my friend and fellow Italian wine ambassador, Robert Maggi, in Cardiff. Half Welsh, half Italian, Robert is the co-founder of WinesnVines and the founder of the Cardiff Wine Festival, a key wine event in Wales. Hi, Robert. It's great to catch up. Thanks for being our guest today. I know this is a crazy busy time for those of you at the sharp end of the wine business, so we appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us. How are you today?
Boreda, Mark. Thank you. I'm very well, thank you. And it's a great honor to be on the show. And thank you for having me.
Oh, no, it's our pleasure. And I'm really interested in learning more about your story. It's a pretty nice day down here near Exeter. How are things in Cardiff today?
Surprisingly, it's sunny here as well. So for the time of the year, it's I can't complain.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, our listeners are located all around the world, Robert, as you know, and many may not actually know much about where Wales is. Just tell us a little bit about Wales and about Cardiff, where you're living and working.
Sure. So Wales, obviously we're in the west side of the UK, and I'm actually half Welsh and half Italian. My mum is Welsh, my dad's Italian, and although I did grow up in Italy and Puglia, so my heart is definitely Italian, support Italy. But here I am, after many years, I moved back from Italy to Wales, and it's definitely a thriving country. I'm in Cardiff, which is in the capital, and so there's a lot happening, not only in terms of food and wine, but in general, it's definitely a growing city. And the people of Wales are generally very warm people, so it's a great place to live.
Okay, so you actually grew up in Puglia rather than in Wales, is that right?
Yes, so I grew up in Puglia, in Bari, but my mum and dad live in Locorotondo, which is in the heart of the Ytre Valley, so that place obviously has a special place in my heart.
Okay, yes, and very good white wines from there as well. Robert, I don't have a trace of either a Welsh accent or an Italian accent. Is that just me? You sound to me like you've been in the UK, most of your life.
Yeah, I'm very lucky because I grew up obviously bilingual. My mum always spoke to me in English, and obviously grown up in Italy, and it's something incredible. You don't realize, and the next thing you can speak two languages.
Did you used to travel to Wales then for holidays?
I did, yes. Christmas was the time we would go and visit all the family and my grandparents. So that was always the time, we went to Wales. As things, traveling got a lot easier then, we made sure we went several times a year. But when I was younger, it was just Christmas time.
Okay, so you went to school all through your schooling then in Puglia.
I did, yes. So I did all my school in Puglia. When I finished the Liceo in Puglia, I actually went to university in Aberystwyth. So I attended Aberystwyth University, which is a little town in Wales on the west coast. King Charles went there, actually. And after I finished my degree, which was in business management and Spanish, I actually came back to Puglia. I was a little bit lost, not sure what I wanted to do. And that's when I did a simple sommelier course with the Italian Sommelier Association. And I remember sitting there on the first day and I said, this is what I want to do the rest of my life.
Is that right? Did you grow up in a family of wine? Was wine in your blood? Did your family make wine? Or was it simply that was part of your culture growing up in Italy?
In general, food and wine have always been in my life. My dad's a chef, a fairly renowned chef from Puglia. So I kind of grew up, in and around kitchens. And also with wine, not even realizing my granddad had vineyards, and it came to September time when, I would go and help the family pick the grapes, like we all did in the family. And it was just part of what we did, and then a few months later
Sure.
was, picking the olives. And so my granddad was a farmer, but we sold the grapes to the local cooperative, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore in Locorotondo.
Oh, that co-op doesn't exist.
No, unfortunately,
It used to be a very good co-op. I remember it going back many, many years ago.
Absolutely. The Cantina Sociale in Locorotondo was a great winery, and it helped many farmers in the area. I'm not really sure what happened, but it closed over 20 years ago now, which has had an effect, I believe, on the local farmers. A lot of the grape growers have kind of pulled out their vines, as they don't really have many other options, where to confer the grapes.
I wonder if it was also victim of its own success, in as much as a lot of growers, rather than selling their grapes, started to make and bottle the wine themselves. Could that have been part of it? I know that you're working with small producers in the area.
Possibly, but then if you look at the amount of small wineries that there are in the area, in the Ytre Valley, there's not that many today. So I think it was a mixture of bad decision making, or just, I think, the natural way things evolve. But indeed, the Locorotondo and the Bianco Locorotondo was from what I've heard, a very, very famous wine, especially in the 70s and the 80s.
It was indeed. I remember it well. I remember visiting the cooperative, and it was very modern and very well run. So,
yeah. So my granddad was one of the founders of the cooperative.
is that right?
Yes, yeah. So very. I remember going there, on the big truck and dropping the grapes in September.
Sure.
It was a great experience.
Yeah. What did you study at Aberystwyth?
I did business management and Spanish language.
Okay, but no intention then of entering into the world of wine.
Absolutely no. I hardly drank any wine back then. And obviously there was always wine on the table when growing up, but it was nothing that really caught my attention. And I had no idea I would end up working in the wine industry.
Okay, so well, tell us then how WinesnVines began, and tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah, so back in 2017, I moved back to the UK. Second time around, it was also due to my current wife. She had a job opportunity here, and I kind of liked the idea of moving back to the UK and starting my own business. And when we came back here, that's what I did. So I founded WinesnVines. And very simply, we're wine merchants. We import and distribute wines here, based obviously in Cardiff and the southwest Wales. The general idea was to work with smaller producers. Before moving back to the UK, I had the opportunity to work with an association in Puglia, promoting rosé wines from Puglia, so Puglian rosé. And that gave me the opportunity to work with a lot of the smaller producers and really understand what's behind every bottle. And so the idea was to bring then these wines and give these smaller producers a voice here in the UK, which is obviously a very, very competitive market.
You've got a pretty comprehensive coverage of Italy from north to south and islands. Has it been difficult to find these small producers? And I guess I'm wondering what your criteria is. I'm sure the quality of the wine is the first thing, but you're selling wines from interesting areas and great varieties that I imagine are not that well known where you are, and indeed where anywhere in the UK, which is a really admirable thing to be doing, bringing this message of native grape varieties and wines from throughout Italy. Was that always the intention, to try to just seek out small producers?
I guess so. And I think the more I was getting into it, the more I could, my passion grew for the unknown, or lesser known varieties. They just fascinate me, the fact that there's so many out there and there's so much still to learn and to discover. So I guess when I go to a restaurant, if there's, on the wine list, a variety I've never tasted, I'll most certainly go and try, and taste that variety. And every opportunity I get to add, a new wine or new variety to our portfolio with the right criteria, obviously we do it. Some work really well. To give you an example, we are probably one of the few importers that work with Lacrima di Morro d'Alba from Le Marche, and it has worked really, really well. It's been very successful for us. Other varieties that we believed, could maybe work haven't worked as well as we'd hoped to. But I guess that's part of the game. And with Italy having so much to offer, it's always tricky. When it comes to the criteria on how we pick and choose, the smaller producers, I strongly believe a key factor for us is the kind of personal relationship we're able to create with the producer. Obviously, you need to have the right price, you need to have the right marketing behind the right labels. There's all things that you have to tick, before, you're able to bring the wines in and try and promote them. But I think the most important is to create that personal rapport, that personal relationship with the producer. And it makes our life a little bit easier when we try and sell those wines and tell the story. If we buy into it, then I feel I enjoy more my job when I'm trying to sell these wines.
Right. You're really introducing the people behind the wines as well as the wines themselves.
Exactly.
I've had a couple of deliveries cases from you, Robert, over the past months, and you've got a fabulous list and a list of wines that, I simply couldn't buy anywhere else. Who are your customers? Is it mainly trade, or are you selling also? I know you're selling to private customers like myself, but what's the balance in that?
So currently we have two main channels, which is the wholesale part of the business, so the distribution with the restaurants, the wine shops and retailers. And then we have the online part of the business, which is your general consumers. And we cover the whole of the UK with our website. Whereas with the distribution, we are focused here in South Wales, and we venture a little bit into Bristol over the bridge. There's two completely different approaches and two completely different jobs, I'd say. Yeah, those are the two main channels we focus at the moment.
Would that be mainly to Italian restaurants, Robert?
Mainly Italian restaurants, yes. It's easier with Italian restaurants, obviously, because majority of them will only have Italian wines on the list. And I think it's easier as well to create that kind of relationship sometimes. But nevertheless, we supply also other types of restaurants and hotels in the area. So.
Okay, of course. Cardiff and Wales in general has a strong Italian presence, doesn't it? Historically, there have been Italians that have moved to Wales.
Absolutely. There's actually a big community from people from Bardi in Emilia-Romagna. I believe in the post-war, many emigrated here to work in the mines. Wales has used to have a lot of coal mines. And obviously now there's the second and third generations of these Italians. But in general, I believe Italians are everywhere. Everywhere I've been in the world, there's Italians. There's a big community of Italians. So that's always nice.
Sure. Just share with us a few of your wines that sell best, perhaps an example from the north, the center, and the south.
Sure. So lately I've become, and I remember when we did the study group together for the Italian Wine Ambassador course, we did a study project on Friuli and the kind of soils up there. And ever since, I must say, it has become one of my favorite regions in terms, especially with white wines, but also red wines. So I feel like we work with a few lovely producers from Friuli. I really enjoy a glass of Refosco dal Peduncolo Rosso, which is always sometimes hard to explain to customers. But then when you open a bottle and that kind of style, it's always a winner. So for sure, Ribolla Gialla, when it comes for white wines, it's a variety I really believe in, and also becoming a little bit more known here in the UK.
Actually, I remember that project, and I remember you speaking in great detail about the Ponca soil of Collio.
Exactly, yes.
And what that soil really helps the white wines in particular of Collio to express themselves in such a vivid way.
Yeah, and the versatility as well of different styles that you can get from the region is just great. So it never fails to amaze me. When it comes to central Italy, I have to mention Le Marche, which is obviously a lesser known variety. And actually my business partner, Marco, is from Le Marche. So we always try and push a little bit, the wines from that region, which has great varieties and great wines to offer. Verdicchio is obviously the most known, but then you have lesser known varieties like Bianchello or the Lacrima di Morro d'Alba, which I already mentioned. So absolutely, I think there's a lot more to discover in Le Marche.
It's really interesting to be bringing grape varieties in that people have never sampled before, but it also must make it more difficult commercially, both, to explain the grape, to get people to try it, but also for, say, a restaurant to sell those wines because people go for the familiar. That's one of the challenges you have then is education.
Absolutely. It's crucial, and I really believe in the educational side of things. I think that it needs to go hand in hand with then the sales, and in general, the more people educated, or they have the tools to appreciate and understand wine, the more they'll become curious in adventuring outside of what they know they like. And this is why we organize a lot of events and a lot of tasting events, whether it's for 10 people or, like you mentioned before, the Cardiff Wine Festival, which is a much larger event. But the aim is always the same. You put people in front of wines that they wouldn't necessarily, buy or order in a restaurant, and give them an opportunity to learn about these wines. And maybe one day, they'll go back and think, oh, I tasted a Nero di Troia, at the event. I liked it, and feel a little bit more confident in ordering a bottle.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure that's absolutely right and absolutely critical to the success of what you're doing. And you must be doing that well because your business is doing well. Tell us, share with us one of the wines from Puglia that I've tasted Puglian wines with you at Vinitaly last year. Tell us another wine.
Yes, obviously Puglia has a special place, in my business and in my heart as well. And we have an extensive selection from wines from Puglia. And I have to admit, in the last few years, Nero di Troia is definitely a variety that has caught my attention. I'm trying to focus on that variety. It's such a great grape, very versatile, different, you can have different styles of wines, from sparkling rosés to still rosés to age-worthy red wines. And there's still so much to discover behind the variety. Not much research has been done. And indeed, like you mentioned, we met at Vinitaly. As well as all of this that I do in the UK, I collaborate with a winery from Puglia, Caiaffa Vini Biologici, which I kind of act as an export manager for them. And so I'm really into kind of day-to-day, production side of things as well. And it's great to have also that knowledge from the other side, and try and live the evolution of this variety in Puglia. Historically, obviously, Primitivo and Negro Amaro have always had the top spots, but Nero di Troia is definitely coming up.
Absolutely. Wonderful wines from that grape. You've also working interestingly, with Piwi wines, Piwi grape varieties. Tell us a little bit about why you're interested in exploring the world of Piwi, these fungal resistant varieties that may become increasingly more important as climate change brings new challenges.
We do. And actually, like everything, the more you read about it, the more you learn about it. And I think the more you become passionate about it. A few years ago, I was in Belgium for a wine event, and I met Nicola Biasi, who is a great winemaker. I actually did an interview with him on the Italian Wine Podcast about PV varieties. And his work in the last 10, 12 years has been focused on resistant varieties. And just tasting his wines and talking to him and reading books about it, it just made me really curious on this next wave, I believe, of grapes. Although some of them are very, very old, have been created, many, many years ago. But, only today we are starting to see some really interesting wines being produced with these varieties in Italy. I mean, and let's not forget, in many regions it's still illegal to plant these varieties. However, I do believe one way or another, these varieties will inevitably be the future of winemaking. With the ways things are going with climate change and all the other issues, change needs to happen at some point. And we're not saying, again, that we need to take everything away and plant PV varieties. That won't be helpful to anyone. But we can't just ignore the fact that, sooner or later we will need to act. So, the research behind it's great. And the wines as well that are coming out are very interesting.
Yes, I agree with you. And of course, Professor Attilio Cienza has spoken to us and written extensively on the subject, and also believes that we must change our views of grape varieties and embrace the possibilities, because out of necessity. Interestingly, Robert, some of these peewee varieties have been grown in the UK for a very long time, and Welsh wine indeed is now being taken very seriously. So there's some really great wines coming out of Wales. Is that something you follow?
I do partially. I think there's some really interesting wines that are coming up, and every year there's new wineries popping up as well, which is great. I believe there's about 40 wineries, more or less, producing wines here in Wales. And like you mentioned, majority of them do work with PV varieties, and it's, some of the sparkling wine examples are very, very interesting. As the climate is getting warmer and warmer, I think we'll soon see some interesting red wines. It's definitely a place to watch.
Sure.
Passion behind, the people. I think that's the key, in the wine industry. People who work in the wine industry, they primarily do it for passion, which always then ends up bringing good results.
Yeah, absolutely. Every year you organize and run the Cardiff Wine Festival. When did that begin? And tell us about this, because it's going to be a significant event, a wine event in Wales. I'm very sorry the dates keep clashing, and I haven't been able to get up and join you, but I've heard very good things about that from our mutual friend Cynthia Chaplin, and as well from Michele Longari. And so I'm really curious and interested in learning more, and I do hope the dates work and I can join you one of these years.
Absolutely. We'll have to make sure you attend. Yes, so the Cardiff Wine Festival was, when I moved to Cardiff in 2018, I believe there was something missing in terms of wine events. If you go to London, there's maybe 10 events around wine every day. When we came to Cardiff, there wasn't really a significant wine event. And again, going back to the fact that a lot of the consumers, they stop at Pinot Grigio and Malbec, never really have the opportunity to taste other wines. I felt there was a bit of a gap there. And so we came up with the Cardiff Wine Festival. And the idea was to put in contact consumers with the wine producers. So we made sure that all the producers we worked with attended. And for me, it's also important for them as producers to see the Welsh market or any other type of market that's not London. When you speak with a producer, everybody wants to be in London, everybody wants to be in New York, in the big cities. But then the way people drink wines outside of these big bubbles is totally different. So for me, it's crucial as well that the producers understand the markets, the Welsh market. And at the same time, the consumers have an opportunity to taste wines and discover new varieties. And it's not just about Italian wines. We try and work with other merchants. So, for example, we had wines from Czech Republic, we had wines from Bulgaria, from Portugal, from Spain. And so we try and make it as international as possible.
But primarily Italian.
Primarily Italian.
At its heart.
Yeah. Primarily its heart is Italian, absolutely.
Okay.
And this year in 2026 will be the 5th edition that we organise. So we're focusing on this. And we're trying to kind of build up, and grow year by year and see where it leads us and where it goes.
And it's both trade and consumers coming along to it.
Yes. So we obviously have a bit of a trade section. It's always difficult, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to get the trade people to attend these events because there are so many out there. But obviously we try and have a media and trade kind of moment, and then the kind of consumer event comes after.
Okay. Well, Robert, just give a shout out perhaps, and if we turn to food, to one or two of your favorite Italian restaurants in Cardiff or in the area where people can sample your wines, but also eat some good, genuine Italian food.
Absolutely. I think we'll start with a pizza place because, everywhere we go, we need to have a good pizza. And there's a place called Calabrisella here in Cardiff. There are 3 partners from Calabria, and they're really passionate in what they do. They promote their region as much as they can. But most of all, obviously, the quality of the pizza is absolutely great.
What would be your best pizza wine, a wine that you're selling to them that you think is a great pizza wine?
So actually, we've managed to make sure their entry wine, their house wine, which is obviously the one that kind of sells the most, is a Nero di Troia. A light and easy drinking Nero di Troia, so just stainless steel. It has a great acidity, and it works really, really well with any type of pizza. Especially kind of key pizza is the one with Nduja, which has a little bit of spiciness there. So I think you need something, a little, a red wine that counteract a little bit.
Okay, fabulous.
And then if we want to go somewhere a little bit more classical, we have Casanova, which is a great restaurant. The food is amazing. They combine, the Welsh produce. Their lamb dish is to die for, and definitely a different experience. So a little bit more of a top end experience, but still feeling very, very much so at home.
Okay, and you've got a good selection of your wines there.
Absolutely. The owner there is called Luca. He's also a partner with us in organising the Cardiff Wine Festival. And the selection of wines, it's very, very extensive from north to south.
Okay, and is there a food connection? Is there a food element of the Cardiff Wine Festival?
So we try and include the food element. So the guys from Calabrisella are always there, presenting their pizza. But we could definitely grow more in terms of the food. We, in the past, have had local cheesemonger there trying to pair, some of the cheese with the wine, which always works. And so we're always trying to better that and improve that. Last year, for example, we had Riso Gallo as one of the sponsors. So they were serving small samples of risotto to try with the different types of wines, which worked really, really well.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Well, great, Robert. It's been fabulous to catch up with you, to learn about the corner of Italy you've created in Cardiff, the connections with where you've come from in Puglia, and the fabulous range of wines you're bringing to the UK. So I hope our listeners in the UK will look out for the WinesnVines website. Check out your selection of wines, particularly now at this time of year. It's a good time to explore new wines and also to visit you in Cardiff.
Absolutely.
Robert, thanks so much for sharing your time this morning. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Mark. It's really been a great honour and always a pleasure to speak with you.
Well, I hope we can actually meet up over a glass of wine or two soon.
Absolutely. We'll have to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thanks a lot and have a great day.
Thank you. Ciao a tutti.
Ciao, ciao.
We hope today's episode of Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on the Italian Wine Podcast has transported you to somewhere special. Please remember to like, share and subscribe wherever you get your pods. Likewise, you can visit us at italianwinepodcast.com. Until next time, chin chin.